Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Maryland Apex Accelerator webinar. Glad you could join us today on the last class of the year. Can you believe that? The year has just flown by, and what a very interesting year it has been for us, government contractors, excuse me, and business owners. Certainly enough to keep us on our toes for sure. I'm your host, Yasmin Razak, and I am responsible for training and outreach here at the Apex Accelerator. Today's topic is how to navigate contracting in the defense industrial base, and it is led by Keisha Foster, who is the founder of Key to Life Professional Services, LLC. We will get started very shortly, and there will be opportunities to ask Keisha your questions by typing them in the chat box on your screen. We will pause at the top of the hour for a excuse me, got a frog in my throat this morning, for a 5-minute break at the top of the hour. As always, this is being recorded, and a copy of the recording and the slides will be sent to you after the presentation. For those of you who are joining us for the first time at the Maryland Apex Accelerator, it is our mission to assist Maryland businesses to compete in federal, state, and local government procurement processes. Our services are no cost to you. So if you would like assistance, please complete the application form on our website, marylandapex.org. And it usually takes about 30 business days before a counselor will schedule a session with you. All right, then. Hi, Keisha. You ready for this last class of the year?
Yes, Yasmin, yes. It's been a wonderful year. We've had a lot of you attending the training. We thank you. And the training is meant to really help you because we're going to give you the training and it's accompanying notes because those are designed to help you for startups, for new small businesses, and it gives you a solid foundation with doing business with the government. So that's why it's important that we make sure you get the slides. And then the questions in the chat. Now, I don't, because it would throw me off and I'll get looking in the chat. So I don't keep the chat open. But what I do is I pause throughout the training to answer your questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat because this is the first time we taught this training. So we don't know what you do not know. So I've put the poll questions in there. And if you feel like something that I did not discuss, please, please, please put in the chat. Because what we do is when we refine our training and review and do our audits, we add that into the training. So that way it's answering your questions and what most small businesses are facing. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So just meet me a little bit. I always tell you, I'll make sure in the chat in the PowerPoint slides. So I keep the notes. So if you want to reach out, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, YouTube. We have Maryland Apex Accelerate also has a YouTube channel where we keep all of our training. So that way, if you missed a training or anything, you can always feel free to go back and rewatch the training, anything. So you'll get those at the end of the session. And on the Key to Life YouTube channel, we just share tips, updates, training, supplemental resources to the training we give here because we know it's a lot. We give a lot of training here. And it's 2 hours. So, and then over there, you'll find it. I break it out in little topics. So that way it's not so much and it's easier to digest. So it's just a supplement resource to help small businesses succeed. So that's a little bit about me. Okay, now let's get to our first poll. All right, now, how familiar are you with DIB, the Defense Industry Base? Okay, it's completely normal, right? If you're not familiar, because most new businesses are learning this for the first time. So that's what this training is for, to give you a little bit of everything, or you may be familiar, but you're here to learn a little bit more. Okay, so about 65% of you, this is all new to you. All right. So that's going to be really good because I've put I sprinkle a little bit of everything in the training to make sure I'm covering everyone. Okay. And then the second poll, where is your business currently positioned? Many of you beginners or not in DIB yet, or today my goal is to help you understand the best entry point because if you're not, and a lot of you are starting off exploring government contracting. So this training is definitely for you. Let me go to the next slide with the second poll. All right. Where is your business currently? Okay. And so what I'm getting is we got about 64% of you, not at all, uh, somewhat, 29%, and very familiar. We got a few of you that's in here very familiar. So that's really good. And if you have any input, if I missed anything or anything that the ones that are very familiar, please put it in the chat because we can incorporate that in the training to make it really good for everyone. And then for those who are starting exploring government, we got about 26% of you in here registered with no contracts yet, 41%. Subcontractor looking to scale, about 44% of you. And prime contractors, that is very good. We have some prime contractors in here. And if you have any insights or help, because that would definitely help with the training as well because this is what we have in the training for to build a community to help small businesses because there's no I in team the way I see it, and the military taught me we get better, more done when we work together. All right, so now today's training goal. All right, today's training goal is to just really help you navigate this space. All right. All right. So when you're taking today's training, I always like to give this little primer when you're taking this training because you want to get all the value from this. So I always ask you to put the questions in the chat. Now, when you're taking your notes, write the slide number when you're taking your notes. So when you go back to review your slides, you know, oh, that was on slide 5 or that was on slide 6. And then that way, when you get the handouts, you can use those, write your notes in it, and then put it in your GovCon binder. All right. So everything we're doing is resources that you can refer back to later when you are have questions or what do we talk about? Then you have that on the slides, your written notes and your questions, because all of this is to prepare you for your counseling session. Now, 3, think about how this affects your business. Every example we go through, ask yourself, how does this apply to me? So this is the reason why we're giving the trainer, so you know how it applies to you. So you've already thought about it. You already have identified those first 2 or 3 questions that you want to take action soon as you get into your counseling session. Because like I said, we cover the whole state of Maryland. So you have hundreds of small businesses coming in working with just a few counselors. So we've created this training to help you to be productive and to hit the ground running as soon as you get in your sessions. And then make sure you take action. You don't use it, you lose it. You will forget. You'll start, okay, what did we say or what? So that's why it's important to implement quickly. And then always recommend that you stay abreast to all the training we have. So that way, if that training you don't need it, then don't attend that training. Attend the trainings that you need. And if you have someone on your team or in your business that needs data training, then have them attend that training. So that way you're just adding those resources and making your company more educated because you know you still need those continuous learning points even if they're not being tracked. All right, so our agenda today. Okay, we're going to talk about why the defense industry base matters, give you a brief overview. Then we're going to have a use case that's coming from the National Defense Industry Strategy. I pulled one out, put it on the slide because I wanted to talk about it in depth so you can understand how you can use this and then apply it to your business. We're just going to brush over the key players in defense, just understanding what it is, how they buy, I give you a pretty basic 7 step on how to enter your key compliance requirements because you know a lot has changed with the new CMMC, which we have a training on our YouTube channel, the Maryland Apex Accelerators YouTube channel. So you can always go back and check that out. And then I give you just a couple of steps and tips to help you prepare for your counseling session, and then just give you a brief overview of the training that will be happening next year. So that way you can plan accordingly and put it on your yearly training calendar, because that's some things that I brought with me when I was in the military. We always had a yearly training calendar. We was always having our meetings and training. So when you're in your team meeting or your CEO business meeting, okay, what training do we have coming up? So that's why I always give you the training information to prepare you for the coming year so you know how to plot it on your calendar. All right, so why the defense industry base matters. Let's get right into it. Okay, so why do you think this matters? Okay, it matters because the government buys almost everything: products, services, tech, training, and support. But you need to know what they're buying, how often they're buying it, all those different things that matters to you. So because DIB is not just the Lockheed and Martins or the Boeings or the SAICs, it is thousands. It includes thousands of small businesses. But the problem is most small businesses do not know how to go about selling their services to the government, and that's why we believe that the it's shrinking. We're having a shortage, so it lets you know there's a shortage because they had to implement a strategy to get to start getting the small businesses um, back educated on what it is needed to enter the defense industry base. And so that is why this training was very important for us to create, so you understand the complexities. But so our job is to make it easy for you to enter the defense industry base, given that that is one of our mission. If you support the mission, you are a part of that defense industry base. So that's why we had to have this training. But it all depends on how agile you are, how innovative small firms are. So for the cyber security, for your IT, logistics, your professional services, your manufacturing, and then those niche capabilities. So when I say niche capabilities, I'm talking about, like, for instance, me, I'm an acquisitions me. It takes time to become an acquisitions me. You have to get those certifications. You have to have your degree. You have to have that training. So even with the industry, the defense industry base, you have to do those same things. But what we're trying to do is show you how. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now let's talk about it, the overview of the national events. Because so what I always do is I like to pause, uh, go to the resource, because this is nothing, I'm not making these things up. It's been referenced. I look everything up, make sure there's updates and stuff like that, because you don't have the time to. This is what we do. We're looking everything up. We're doing the research. We're finding all the information. We're leading you to the information so that way you can make informed decisions. So the NDIS, the National Defense Industry Strategy. All right, I'm about to go to it right now for you, but let me tell you about it a little bit. Okay, what it is the strategic pillars of NDIS is, so I'm gonna go over it first. Their vision. So let me just take you to it so that way you can see what I mean when I say this is what the Department of War, we still call it DOD because we still whatever, we're still going through the name changes or whatever, but I always say both so we're talking about the DOD. So they release their first defense industry strategy. So now when I went to go click the link, it's still not working, but I wanted to make sure you understood the it was a previous one, and I believe that one was done in 2023, so I made sure you're going to get this in the handout at the end of the training because I wanted to go over it with you. But this one is 2023's National Defense Industry Strategy. So when I'm talking to you about the National Defense, this is the document, the handout number one that I'm talking about because the link is still not working. They probably have done some modifications, so that may be reason why the link is broken for right now. But so you can see, this is the updated one for 2024, if I'm not mistaken. And you can go in here and read it and get some more information. And the link will be in the slides too, because I made sure I put the link in there. Okay, so let's talk about it. All right, so what the DoD wants. Okay, so I'm going to go to some of the things that it wants. I broke it down for you in the PowerPoint. So when you go back to the PowerPoint, you see I just kind of broke it down for you. And when you get these slides in the notes section, I have the pillars broken down. All right, so the DoD, so let's go back to the document that we're discussing today. So the DoD wants a modern, resilient, and innovative industry base. So they've given you all, it's just like they're giving you all the answers to the test. Your job is to read it. Okay. You have the answers to this is an open book test, right? They're giving you the answers. Now you have to go in here and read it, highlight everything, understand how this is going to apply to your small business because a lot of you are very new. I mean, most of you in this class is very new. Okay, so I want to make sure you understand what I mean when I'm saying you have to dive deep, and this is the open book. Okay, so if your business can respond quickly to the needs, you are a valuable partner. Now they're looking for technical adaptability, the readiness, and major themes. Okay, so let me keep going through. So basically, as the NDA state, we will prioritize coordinated efforts with the full range of domestic and international partners in the defense ecosystem to fortify, right, the defense industry base. So basically, they're talking about our logistical systems, relevant global supply chains, and that's what they're talking about. Okay. But I want to show you where all of this makes sense so it makes sense to you. Okay. And they're just telling you, you can read this later. I don't want to spend a lot of time on just reading it. I want to go to the highlights so you know where you're talking about. All right. So this is where you need to focus on the strategic framework. You need to understand their priorities, the challenges, because remember, we always ask the question. We want to get on the phone with the contracting office. Okay, what are your challenges? What are your pain points? Well, they told you that. It's right here. They're telling you their priorities, their approach, and their challenges. Okay. But then the priorities. So, what I'm going to do is dive deeper as we go along in the training, and I'm going to break one down for you so you can understand how it all breaks down. Okay. So, the priorities are the pillar one. So, I call them the pillar one, right? Okay. So, they want the supply chain, right? Resilient supply chains. So then they give you the summary, they give you the actions, they give you the illustrative outcomes and outputs, and this right here, the risk of not achieving it. They're telling you what's going to happen if we do not achieve this, right? So, but and the example that I'm going to give you in the PowerPoint slides, I want to focus on the workforce readiness, because everything I do is all about training the workforce. So I'm going to focus and dive deeper in on the workforce readiness. And then you'll see that play out in the slide. So when you hear me say NDIS, this is what I'm discussing. This document that was released by DOD. All right. This is what I'm talking about in these slides. And I have just breaking it down in the bullet points to make sure you understand what is going on. So that way you don't feel lost. Because I've had in previous classes, especially when it's something new, and most of my class are very new and not familiar. These are some of the challenges they have. So I have to make sure you understand what document I am discussing, why I'm discussing it, and how it applies to you. All right. So that's why I wanted to make sure you understood that. So now let me move on to the next slide because that's the document we're discussing. So you understand now that that's it. All right. Now, this strategy is a roadmap of where the opportunities will be. All right. Now, you can read the slides, but I will have a little bit more commentary because I want you to understand the slides because you can read that. You see what's on the slides. But what I want to make sure you understand is the reason for the slides. All right. This is the strategy, a roadmap of where the opportunities will be. If you understand this, you can position your business for long-term success because that's the whole goal. All right, is to position your business for long-term success. And then it also reinforces that the NDIS affects, you want to have subcontracting, we're going to have teaming, we're going to have manufacturing, cyber, and services. So if you're one of those, how does this apply to you? Okay. Now, so what I want to do is emphasize that DoD is shifting towards speed, modernization, and reduce risk. They're not going to work with you if you're going to bring all that risk. I'm telling you. That's why they're doing the full what's that? Fixed price contracts because they do not want to assume all those risks. The contractor has to assume some of those risks. So that's why they're giving you out all the information. They've pointed out that small businesses can do this, but we're going to show you how. They're giving, like I said, this is the homework. All right, and I've given you all the pillars. Okay, so now let's go a little bit deeper. Okay, so let me go to the next slide before I go back to the document because I want to make sure that you understand. Okay, so let's go to the next one before I go back to the. Okay, so now how NDS shapes opportunities for small businesses. All right, so it highlights stress sectors. So, like they're telling you, the submarines, munitions, microeconomic, they're telling you in this document where they're having the challenges. So that's why we're going to go back to the document. All right, it signals where DoD will heavily prioritize their investments and their partnerships, and this drives demand for subcontractors and new suppliers. So, because what happens is everybody is on SAM.gov trying to go after the same thing. Okay, everybody's out there. The competition is fierce. It's fierce for a new and startup small business because basically they're looking for established businesses. You are competing with established small businesses, mid-tier size companies, and then large primes. So that makes it very challenging for startups and new small businesses to enter because startups have, I mean, they're still trying to build their business at the same time. So you happen to be educated, you got to get your education for this field because the B2G, business to government, is different than business to business and business to consumer. So understanding that where you fit in this. So that's why I always have to just break it down a little bit more so you understand how it all works together. It's not just easy as, okay, well, we're going to just I'm just going to break into, and then they get frustrated when they come into the sessions, the counseling sessions. Well, I've bid on about 7 or 12 opportunities and I could not win. Well, you could not win because you don't have a plan, a strategy. You're brand new. There's certain things they're looking at, the criteria for. I like to use this example, like when you put those applications in to go to college, they're not accepting everyone. And then sometimes you have to do that essay to get accepted. Then you have to meet a score. It's a screening criteria, right? Just because you see the opportunity out there, you may not be ready for it. So that's why it's good to see the opportunities out there. But what you're trying to do is position yourself to win those opportunities and not waste your capital, your time, and all those things. And then you become frustrated and then you just give up. So that is why we're having these trainings to keep you from feeling that way. All right. So now, how do you see yourself? Or now that you know what the strategy sounds like, And there are opportunities for small business. Anywhere DOD says there is a shortage, that's where you need to be focusing. Because if they're saying there's a shortage, or they're saying workforce, they're saying supply chain, they're saying manufacturing and cyber, that's where you need to be focusing, because everybody's going after the opportunities that's on SAM. And by the way, some of them went to the procurement forecast. We've already talked about training on the procurement forecast, because so that was what, about 2 years ago. So they knew about this opportunity 2 years ago. So that's why these strategies documents are important for you to look at, because it tells you is this is like almost their 10-year plan or 5 to 10 year plan, depending on the strategy. They might say this is only for 5 years. They might say it's only for 10 years. So just be aware of the plan. And then is there an update to the plan? Okay. So that's what we got to be aware of. And that's why it matters to you. Okay, so we talked about that. Now let's go through, because I have a good example out here. But but we, before we go to the example, let me make sure. Let me go to, and then I'm gonna make sure I answer, because I know I probably got some questions. This is the um case study we're gonna look at in the plan. It's just basically a Navy shipping yard that requires skilled labor. Okay, this is the scenario that we're talking about in the resource guide. All right. The U.S. shipping decline reduced in the labor pool. This is just me bullet pointing it out, because when you see the content, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. So I always give you an overview first before you see the content. All right. And then this is DOD is modernizing nuclear submarine fleets. And that's this case, right? And then what they're trying to do, they will need, look, 100K skilled workers in about 10 years. So you know they're not going to do all that at once, especially given the fact that we had there were so many layoffs and all those different things. And then the nuclear, and then all the other things. They want the Navy, they have to be Navy certified training. And then right now, it's only 2 U.S. shipyards handling the nuclear servicing. And then, so what is this? Vendor workforce shortages also expected. So they're just giving you a breakdown. So let's go to the document. Okay, this is the document we're talking about. So we're going on the workforce readiness. So let me go take you there. Okay, so that's like I said, it's a lot. That's why I don't just jump into it and start explaining. I always give you a little primer and then let you know. So this is the document that we're discussing. This is the introduction. You see the table of contents, and then they're going to go through the priorities, and all those things with this program. All right. They're talking about doing so builds on the lessons learned in recent decades and enduring advance of global international. Because just like when the pandemic hit, remember supply chain was affected. I mean, people were, you know, scrambling over tissue and all these other things. So we seen there was a need that we need to make sure that US is taken care of. So this all of that is in here. They was talking about the post-war and everything. So that's why I always recommend you read this. All right, but the case study we're looking for is right in on that's on page 28. So this is the strategic framework I was telling you about, priorities. So if you already have this opened up, you can Google it. It's just the NDS 2023. This is the 2023. So if you want to open it up and be going through it with me at the same time, okay. This is what we're talking about. The NDIS seeks to achieve in its four critical, uh, these are the critical areas, right? So I have a little bit more. So what pillar, because I call this, so when you hear me say pillar, I say pillar one is the resilient supply chains, the resilient supply chains. All right, what their goal is, because this is a lot of reading. So I had to bullet point everything for you for this training so we can keep it in the training, is to reduce single points of failure. All right, is to increase domestic manufacturing capacity and to strengthen sources for critical materials and then to improve supply chain visibility and risk management. So that is pillar one. Now, what I'm trying to do is connect the dots for you. This is that pillar is connecting to manufacturing, logistics, suppliers, and firms producing components. All right. So that way this is making sense to you when you're reading the document. All right. So now we're going to talk about so that means basically if you make something, repair something, or prime support, this pillar is for you. Now let's talk about pillar two, workforce readiness. Okay. Pillar two is workforce readiness. All right. Now, addressing aging industry workforce. That's what that one is talking about. All right. They're trying to strengthen the STEM pipeline. So, what they're doing is trying to build their pipeline with all these innovative small businesses, right? They're trying to build that pipeline so that way you could be on their interested vendors list or whatever they call that list. So, that's what they're trying to do with their pipeline. They're trying to expand apprenticeships and training. So I recommend that you look at that workforce readiness in depth because I'm going to go to it because that's what the case study, the case use that I'm using today in our training. But I wanted to give you just a little primer. They're also improving their retention and workforce stability. I apologize. All right, so this is me just explain. Okay, so this is hiring, correct? So they're trying to hire. So sometimes we have staffing companies in here in our trainings, or you might be starting a staffing company. So you will listen because this is one is talking about the workforce, right? They need these trained SMEs, these subject matter experts, and it takes time to get this training. So that training is for manufacturing, cyber, engineering, and technical trades. So small benefits can benefit by partnering with workforce programs or offering training centered services. So when you're reading the NDIS, this strategy, you're trying to figure out, okay, what part do I play? That's the level of detail you have to use when you're coming in. Okay, so what are they looking for? And you can write on it. I recommend you print it out because I print out everything. I know we trying to save paper, but I'm old school. I have to have paper. I have to write on it. I got to put it in my binder because I got to be able to reference this. I don't have my computer open, so that way I can reference it. But you have both your digital copy that you write on and your physical copy that you write on because I travel a lot. So I definitely like to take my documents and stuff with me. So that's the reason why I always tell you to take these notes and stuff. All right. So now let's talk about pillar three, the flexible acquisition. All right. Pillar three, they're trying to modernize, right? Faster contracting pathways. You've seen what's going on with the far rehaul. They're changing everything. They're trying to centralize a lot of things and so forth and so on in the acquisition community. And so, my look, I keep looking, studying, looking at the updates because I'm in the acquisition community. Everything I do is acquisition. I'm acquisition SME. So I'm a subcontractor on sometimes on opportunities. So I need to know what's going on in that field because they're looking for different contracting pathways. They're looking for agile acquisition and rapid prototyping. So they want you to be able to do this stuff quick. And most times when you're a small business, you can do that because you don't have all the bureaucracies, you don't have all those channels it has to go through to get approved just to turn the ship. You got to go through everything to get everything done. But when you're a small business, there's less bureaucracy. All right. Then they're expanding the use of the OTAs and innovative hubs. We'll talk about OTAs more in there because I have to make sure I let you understand the acronyms as well. So that way you know where that fits. So that one we'll talk about. And then the digital engineering and advanced manufacturing. So this benefits technical firms, innovators, cyber companies, and prototype developers. All right. And then that's going to be the CIBR and the STR and the OTAs consortium and the DIE. I apologize, team. I did not catch that. I had put all acronyms. So I apologize for that. I'm going to have to spell it out because not everyone knows, especially when this class today is for new, especially for the startups and new business. And this class is made mostly of new business. And I apologize. And I'll definitely have to add those acronyms in there for when I put those acronyms in there because I did not spell them out. Now, the end, and then the last pillar, economic deterrence. All right. What that one is cooperation with allied nations. That is so that this one is like the global partnerships. So that's why I always tell you put those little notes next to your thing so you know which one this one is talking about. This one's talking about. So you know the economic deterrence is for global partnerships. All right, that one was talking most about the strengthening industry networks, the reduced dependencies on as they said, the adversaries, because you're going to read it for yourself, and then the production across nations. All right. Global instability pushes the US to expand to domestic suppliers. So they're looking basically for domestic suppliers when things happen as it did, or when like just now the tariffs are going up. It's just so many things that impacts the international. So then they're going to look for domestic suppliers so that way you can be prepared when it comes. So that offers small businesses who are reliable and competitive to understand. So, do you understand now when I say if you want to understand where DoD is investing industrial funding, you have to look at that, right? You have to look at all of this to know, okay, these are the challenges. And those were just a couple of bullet points I broke out. Now, you might find more information out there. You might see it more, but that's how I dissected this document, right? First, right here, so I could understand what they were talking about. And I did everything in bullet points so I could really understand. And you'll see how you see how they putting everything in here so you can go through more. But we're talking about the workforce because that's what today's training on. And you see where I tell you they put the case studies in here, and your job is to read the case studies and understanding what they're asking from the case studies. But we're going to go to page 28, and you see they're just giving you more information because that's where we're going to be talking about our case study. It's on 28. Okay, so let me get there. And it's a lot of information for you. It's a lot of good information that's going to really help you. So, and then they're telling you everything. I'm breaking it out. All you gotta do is read. Like I said, print it out and read. Okay, so this is where we are, the workforce readiness. But before I start diving in, I want to pause and take questions. I apologize, team. I was trying to get that thought out, and I did not stop to take questions.
Thank you, Akeisha, and welcome to everybody who joined us since we started. You can type out your questions in the chat box. So let's go through and see. I don't see many questions. A couple of people asking if we're going to get a copy of the recording and the slides. Yes, of course, as always, we email the handouts and the slides with all the links that Akeisha is sharing with you today shortly after the webinar. So don't worry about that. There is a question, is there space for organizations within the healthcare sector?
Well, I did not see the healthcare sector in this document. That's why I always read their strategies for different things, but there are different. So just let me see. HHS, for a fact, I know. Human, what was it? Human health. I always get that acronym wrong because we use acronyms all the time, and then we forget what the name was because we always using acronyms. But them, human health, they definitely deal with human health services. Thank you. I apologize, T. Okay, so yes, they definitely deal with health, but for this one, I truly wasn't looking for to see if it's in there. So please read. It may have spoke about it, but I didn't see it. The only thing I kept seeing in there was the supply chain, manufacturing, cyber, and technical. But this training is good to show you. So when you do go get their strategy, or the different agencies that do deal with the healthcare or challenges with that healthcare, then you can look and see where you fit in. But I know you have some other kind of services that you might be able to fit in with this. But for that, I can't say, because, like I said, this is a new initiative, and I was reading it really deep, but that was not one of the questions. I would definitely add that to later reviews and see if I can really answer that question. But I did not see in this document when I was reading it. And I read this a couple of times. I'm gonna have to read it a couple of times more, because you just learn so much more when you read it again. I apologize. All right, next question, please.
That's okay. Okay, let's see. A few more questions have come out. You had mentioned IT. So somebody said, is there a need for IT, big data, forecasting, mission critical, IT enterprises, which you had spoken on. What contracting vehicles does DoD use in this current administration?
Well, this current administration, I have only seen so far, because you look on SAM, you pull those past award, or you go to FPDS, and FPDS to look up past awards, and I've only been seeing contracting vehicles. I've seen a couple of purchase orders, but mostly different types of contracting vehicles, and I will discuss that a little more in depth as with the training, because I have a slide for the contracting vehicles as well. But I mean, they're really heavily moving to the contracting vehicles. It's no longer the purchase orders as many as before. It's like everything is a vehicle. And if you're not on the vehicle, you cannot bid on that opportunity. But you can subcontract on it. You can find a company that has that vehicle, or prime contractor, via be a small prime contractor, mid-tier prime, or a large prime. Because the large, if you're not established, most of them do not work with you unless you have. Are you a doctor? You nuclear? Your thing is so specialized that you're going to get a job. But normally, that's what I've been seeing, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. And I'm glad you brought that up. So let me show you how you can find out for the DIB as well. So I also put these other, because I wanted to go in depth on probably on the second half of the training, really understanding the industrial based policy. This is where I got a lot of the information. We're going to talk about the Defense Production Act. That's going to be a little bit more, and how you find those opportunities we were talking about, those announcements, and just being aware of what's out there. You see how there's so many things out here that you need to be aware of. So that was going to be, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth on that as well as we progress on the second half of the training. But the first half of the training was mainly on this document. Now, I think, yeah, you had one more question, because I want to keep moving on. I don't want to spend, because it's a lot still to cover. Do we have one more question? Because I'm going to keep moving on, and that I think I may answer some more of the questions.
Okay, yeah, we have a few more come in, but we can do them later in the program.
Okay, I'll do those soon as we come back from our 5 minute break, because I just want to do the introduction for the workforce readiness, and then we'll take our 5 minute break, and then I'll answer the questions, and then we'll dive, because that'll lead us right into going over the different resources, how to look through it, and then our scenarios that we have to go through. Okay. So now the workforce readiness. This is the one I spent a lot of time on, because this is so important. This is going to help small business to understand where their role is, how to look at these things, how to position themselves. Okay. And then what this scenario was talking about. I apologize. I had to pull out my little notes because I didn't want to miss anything. Okay, because these are major opportunities for small businesses. Okay, so I went through the summary, uh, just giving you just a brief breakdown. Okay, so this is how they're plan to rebuild the defense industry base for the submarine industry base. So the SIB is for them. So remember, we were talking about the different things. Labor continues to be a major challenge for industry As baby boomers retire, younger generations generally show less interest in pursuing a manufacturing careers or lack the science, technology, engineering, and math. Remember, we talked about that STEM. So when you hear that word STEM, write that down in your notes. That is the science, technology, engineering, and math. That is where they're focusing the STEM skills needed for industry work. Okay, that labor market lacks sufficient workers with the right skills to meet the domestic production and sustainment demand. This directly affects military readiness. Now, I'm coming from the military. Military readiness that's always front and foremost. All right. The reason why we do what we do is to support our militaries so they can do what? Protect and defend. You know, so, for example, this is the example we're using today. The labor shortages are a major reason why ship maintenance timelines routinely exceed their schedules. So, what they're trying to do is they're trying to address a shortage. And in this document, they're telling you what the shortage is. Now, if you're trying to sell them anything other than the submarine, they're not hearing. So that's why I keep telling people you got to understand each organization and different missions and the vision of what they're trying to accomplish. And once you understand that, then you won't keep trying to sell a product or service they're not asking for. So that's why I had to be clear when I read this over and over again. Okay, what are they asking for? What are they looking for with this strategy? Because that is what the focus is for this training. So let me talk about it. All right. So why submarine production represent one of the most critical industry-based challenges for the DoD. All right. The submarine, I'm gonna say SIB, is one of the most stressed, under capacity, and strategically essential parts of the entire defense industry base. Now, this NDIS highlights it as a case study, which I've shown you, and what happens when the workforce shortages, long term disinvestment, the shrinking domestic expertise collide with the growing national security needs. There's a growing national security need for this now, but it wasn't before. Okay. Now, the Navy ships, number one, Navy shipbuilding was unique workforce requirements. Unlike other defense production, shipbuilding and especially submarine construction is a labor intensive, precise driven, and requires some of the rarest skilled trades in the country. Now, this is what it includes: nuclear welding, marine electrical systems. So if these are some of the things you do, then this is right for you. Okay. Hydraulics and fuel systems, hull fabrication, nuclear safety and inspection, and submarine system, those propulsion systems. Now, these skills take years to develop, and not all can be taught outside of the Navy certified programs. So, now what happened? The workforce. Now, all of this is what I'm giving you. This is summary. I was just giving you a little breakdown. They're telling, I want to walk you through the framework. This is where I got all this information in my notes. I was just taking a couple of notes because I didn't want to lose my train of thought, and I wanted you to understand where I'm getting all this from. And this is how they're telling: invest in upskilling. This is when I say action to achieve workforce readiness. They're telling you right here beautifully. They broke it out. They're teaching it. They're showing you everything. They increase. And this is when I was telling you: prepare workforce for future technology innovation. This is the continued targeting defense critical skill set to manufacturing and STEM. Remember what I told you? Write that down in the science, the technology, engineering, and manufacturing, right? That's the right. When you see STEM, that's what you're going to always remember, that because it's in your acronyms. You've wrote that down. And then to increase access, they're trying to build up apprenticeships and internship programs. If this is something you want to because see where you want to go where there's a need, because if there's a need there's also funding, but if there's no need there is no funding, and it's not a priority to them, so then your funding can be taken away and so forth and so on. So this is a need. Now what they're trying to do is partner with high schools, colleges, universities to fill this need, because this is I mean they're coming all out. And then these are the actions. This is how they're preparing the workforce for the technology. So that's why I'm always looking for things. If there's no need and there's no funding, ain't no sense of me wasting my time to go after it, because I could be going after something else. So that's why I always try to teach you how to focus on what is happening. So this is, you see how they put it all in here? That's too much for y'all to read. So I had to break it all out, pull it to the side and bullet point everything. That's a lot. They're telling you what's going on in here. So this is the case study we're talking about. All right, so I'll leave it up here just in case you want to read it while I'm going over it. All right, the workforce has been streaking for decades. All right, U.S. has experienced a decade-long decline in commercial shipbuilding, a shrinking pool of shipyard workers, and then a steep drop in the apprenticeship programs, a reduced market demand for shipping expertise. So now all of this is coming from that. I just broke it up so that way it will be easier for you to read. All right. And then the result. So this is the result of the case study. Fewer people entering or staying in the submarine specific trades. All right. So that has affected us. All right. The broad decline in US based shipping has reduced the overall market need for shipbuilding expertise. Now, years of defense spending. All right. So during these years, the shipyards have laid off so many workers. So what they did, they went to go find them another job. All right. The skills trades people left the industry permanently. They said, we're not doing this anymore. There's no need for us. So it's constantly. Then what about the people that retired and so forth and so on? So then they did vendor consolidations. They closed a lot of places. And so that means the training pipeline collapsed because no one is funding the training. So how are they going to keep training? How are they going to get their the continuous learning points and so forth and so on? So the erosion in the workforce capacity is now colliding with the surging need demand because they stopped funding this. So now there's a need for it. But oh, by the way, you stopped giving all the funding, you laid off so many people, and now you've created some inefficiencies. So now DoD is now aggressively expanding nuclear submarine programs in this particular case study. All right. The Navy is they're modernizing the ballistic missiles. Then they're expanding attack submarine fleets. I mean, it's just going on. It's massive. And it's required massive labor. And they said within the next 10 years. All right. So now over the next 10 years, the submarine industrial base alone will need to hire nearly 100K trained workers, 100,000 workers, trained workers at primary construction yards. Okay, so that's what they're telling us. This is unprecedented. The DoD must expand. That's when I kept telling you what they're expanding. They need welders, electricians, engineers, nuclear certified technicians, inspectors, supply chain workers. That is a critical gap for them. That is critical. So when it's critical, you know they're funding it. So then you know you have a way to get paid. Now, the only two U.S. shipyards can service nuclear submarines right now, the electric boat, that's General Dynamics, and then Newport News, the shipping building, I believe that is HII. Now, this creates what? Bottlenecks, lengthy maintenance backlogs, workforce overload, increased reliance on small, specialized vendors, and so forth and so on. So that all of this came from me reviewing um, this case study, seeing what was some of the issues they were having and what we need to do. Now, the vendor supply stress is spreading because SIB relies on hundreds of suppliers, including casting and forging vendors, electricians, electronic suppliers, custom part manufacturers, And then inspection companies, nuclear qualified that is what they need. So these suppliers also need thousands of workers as well. So they put out an executive order in here as well. So you can go look that up. I think it was Executive Order 1386 right here. I believe that was exhibit. Yeah, here it is. Uh they put a task force together to fill that. So I don't know what happened with it or anything of that nature. If you want to look a little bit more of that, if this is your area, then please go look at that Executive Order 13086. Now, why this matters to you all, okay, is because we using this one, this SIB, just to show you how you go through the strategy looking for clues onto where you can meet the need of the agency. Because if you're not meeting the need of the agency, giving them the skills they needed. So say this was a technology case study, you go through it, do the same. If it was for one of the, like the one person that asked about the healthcare, the same thing applies. This is what we're looking for now, because once you find out there's a need, now you need to go over to sam.gov or look at the procurement forecast to see how they put out this requirement yet. And then now I got 2 years. If it's on the procurement forecast, 1 to 2 years, 6 months, depending on when they put it out. Or was there an industry day you found out about this opportunity coming up? You put it in your pipeline and now you're tracking it to see if you qualify for it. Okay, should I bid on this opportunity or should I not? Because this is the thing that a lot of small business tend to do. You're going after everything. You think you can do everything, but you're not qualified to do everything. That is why it's important to do that market research first before you decide, okay, this is something I need to pursue. Because if it's not, then you're going to do a no bid. I'm not going to pursue this opportunity because I don't have the skills needed for this opportunity. The welding, the machining, the electronical work, the engineering support. I got program management. But what type of program management? You see? And then cybersecurity. Can we fit cybersecurity in there in this case study? So this is how you need to be thinking when you're reviewing these strategies. It's not just to look at them, it's to actually look at them and see, okay, how you're making business decisions. Should we even try? And then once you decide, yes, we should try, now what's the next step? The next step is to go identify the opportunities. Are there any announcements? And so forth and on. Now, do this mission uh, align with our mission and so forth? And you're looking at the official websites. Don't go looking at all these other websites. Make sure you're only looking at these official websites. Okay, and quality assurance. Now, you know they're going to do quality assurance. So you may have that quality assurance piece and the cybersecurity piece, but do you have a specialty? So then you will want to go get some projects, some experience. So look, you could sell yourself, hey, I got the cybersecurity. I've been doing it for 15, 20 years. However, I've never done it for a ship, right? The ship, the marine, or whatever, this case study. Then you would find out what is it that I need to do to be qualified for this position. They will let you know because this is a need. So they're going to reach out to you because they need this. This is a need and it's urgency. It's critical. So then that way you position for this and now you have work for the next 10 years because they said this is going to expand for 10 years. So that's how you're thinking about things when you look at these strategies for these different agencies, for the different organizations. There's a reason behind it. You need to know the reasoning. And then, so what about you training? Like me, I do training. I'm an instructor. I'm always training. I'm training, but I train in what I know, and that's acquisition because that's what I've done for so many years, acquisition. So, but if you have been doing training, can you implement this? Can you put a training in here that could meet this need? Can you go hire one of these industry experts and put them on your team as a subcontractor or an employee? And then now you are qualified to go after these different opportunities. So it's just all you're doing is thinking, all right, how can I go through this? Technical training, all of these thoughts are going to come to your mind when you're going through this training. And that's why I really wanted to take my time out and go through the scenario with you so you can understand the different things to take away from this. So I'm going to pause right here. We're going to take our 5 minute break. And when I come back, we're going to go back straight into the questions and then onto the live site and finishing up the PowerPoint slideshow so we can get to the scenario.
Okay, are we taking our break now?
Yes, ma'am. It's
All right,
11.
we'll see everybody back in 5 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, welcome back, everybody.
Okay, so to close this out, all right, so what this means for small businesses, okay, I want to encourage you to think three ways. These skills and services you already provide, if you already providing, uh, how could you support manufacturing, training, cyber, workforce, logistics, and engineering? Because that's what they're talking about in this particular event. Now, the geological advantage. All right. If one of these defense hubs are located near you, are any of these hubs located near you, then you can provide your service. Because remember, we're always thinking about, okay, how can I apply this to my business? All right. Are there hubs near you? Are there training centers near you? Are there industrial facilities? These are greater opportunities because then you can go in, talk with them, schedule an appointment. Hey, how do we position ourselves to win opportunities with you? Because we're here, we're in the local area, we have these skills, we have these workers, we have everything. How can we best support you? That's one way. And then the subcontracting path. We talked about the most small business enter through the subcontracting path. All right. You are the subcontractor and you're not the Navy's direct vendor, but you're working for a prime who is. This is just, I mean, there is it's fast growing and it's the most well-funded program right now. That's what you're looking for, the most funded programs that can you can position your business for because everybody's going after the sam.gov. And what we're trying to do is to show you how to get other opportunities, these rare opportunities that you may can position for. You may not can get them right now, but will it just only take you 14 months, 12 months, 6 months to get a certification that's going to push you into an opportunity that can last for 10 years? I mean, is it worth it? Is you evaluating those pros and cons and those things that can help you along the way? Because you do not need to build the submarines to support the submarine industry. You just got to provide them with the support. You see? So that's what I wanted you to think about as we closed out that scenario on how just thinking different, you can have some opportunities that will open up to your small business. All right, so now let's move into the next slide. All right, the Defense Production Act, why it matters. Okay, so that was, let me go to that one because I always like to go straight to the document that we're talking about now, the Defense Production Act, Title 3. All right, what is their mission? All right, the Defense Production Act Title 3 office is committed to ensuring resilient, robust domestic supply chains in order to reduce the reliance on foreign manufacturing and correct domestic shortfalls in the defense industry base. They put all of this together for you so that way you have those opportunities to be able to meet the need. Now, if you want to understand where DOD is investing all its industry dollars, is right here. All right. This is where they're investing those industry dollars. Now, this website, I'm showing you how to navigate it. This is going to show you current projects of DoD. It's supporting to strengthen the industry base, and you can review it later and align your capabilities. You're going to hear that always. You're going to hear, what are your core capabilities? What are your capabilities? That means the services you provide. So if it's welding, if it's cybersecurity, whatever that core capability is, you need to align it with these missions. That way, because this one has active funding, right? This is what you want. Okay, so they're giving you their vision, they're giving you what we do and who we are. Now, these are the announcements I was telling you about. All right, they're telling you call for proposals on critical chemicals production. All right, these are the things they need. Defense Department in was this invest to reestablish domestic production of was that critical propellant. All right, and it goes on. And this is what you need to be reviewing. Then they're telling you about the important resources, the statutory language, their overview, all of this, their focus areas. And so when I said earlier, I didn't see anything for the healthcare, is because this is where I was diving in deep, looking for where they're talking about for this particular defense industry base, right? This for this particular, this is where they're focusing all of their energies into right now. So that's why I just stuck with right here. And then, like I said, for those who are not in this, then you know what to do, because you have a repeatable process to go look at other things. Okay, so let's look at one of the announcements. Before we move on, let me finish telling you about the program, and then we'll move on to look at the announcements. All right, so this is the authority to expand the U.S. industry capacity and so forth and so on. And I've just showed you, these are just the bullet points to really explain to you the key takeaways of why it matters. The DPA helps DoD rapidly increase. All right, this is the key takeaway. Production of critical to the national defense. So if it's not critical, I'm telling you, it does not meet the need right now. It has to be critical. All right, it is used to address the shortages areas like the submarines. All right, they also said missiles. So anything dealing with those components, because now that you know how to break down one of the case studies and look for the meat, then you can go through and do that for the missiles. They're looking for microelectronics and critical minerals. So and then they might have more, but that's all I was able to distill from looking at the program right now, briefly, because I wanted to really give you a good training on how you dive deep and to get more information on this. Now, the DPA funded programs indicate high priority markets with current or projected demand. Small business can use this information to identify stressed supply chain areas, target primes receiving the DPA investments, and develop relevant capabilities and build a realistic pipeline. Okay, realistic pipeline. Now, this is where I'm supposed to stop before we dive deep into and start looking at opportunities to make sure I answer all the questions prior to our quick break. Okay, so
Oh,
let me go back to the questions.
okay, let's have a look at the questions. Okay, somebody's asking if the slides will be shared. Yes, they will be shared. Is top security clearance required?
If it's one of those critical ones, now for a fact, most of them going to have, now you might not have to have a top secret, but some of them will be required, because I mean, come on now, we look, when you're dealing with submarines, that might be a top secret or secret. That's why once the requirement comes out, which we will discuss more, I'm glad you asked that question too. So let me put that on here: facility clearance or a top secret clearance or just a regular clearance. Because when you open up those opportunities, it will let you know if a clearance is required or not. Or it could be just a public trust, because you're not going to be in there. You might just be providing support, or you might be in a off-site facility just only providing the training. It depends on the industry, and it depends on what they need you for. Because if it's only training, but certain things they might not want you to see in training. It might have to be redacted. So it depends on the opportunities requirement of what you're going to be providing and what they say in the opportunity. So we'll go over that when we open up the opportunity. But yes, that's a good question. I got that noted. Okay, next question.
Okay. There's only one more. How can I find primes?
Okay, so now because for this program, I'm not quite certain if they're putting the primes on a website like they were for DHS, and because this is fairly new in this part when they're advertising. So when we're looking at the opportunities, let me make a note for that one. Question two. Primes, locate primes. I want to make sure that get answered, especially in the next training, because that is key. How do you locate? Now, the way I know how to do it when I was teaching for others, so if it was like defense, DISA or HHS or IRS or whatever, I went to SAM or USA Spending, and I would search for that agency and so forth and so on. So just basically what I did was I went to sam.gov, you hit contracting, and then so we want to look at the agency because I'm just going to hit search. Oh, they're going to make me put something in here. So I'll put my Romeo 707. Okay, and then which agency I want to look at. So I'll just use the first one, and then they'll let you know if there's any matches or anything. And then that's how I found primes because I wanted to go specifically for that agency, and I would look at awards, who was awarded. Now that was one way, but the other way was usaspending.gov. This one is better to me. But I have two different methods because it depends on why I'm looking for the prime. That's the reason because I'm trying to see who was awarded something. I want to know if they ain't awarded anything, I'm not going to try to work with them because we both trying to do the same thing. So it depends on. So you will go in here, you will go to recipients, and that's how you will find primes for the different agencies. So say let's just do HHS or healthcare services in California. We click on that and it's telling you different agencies but I want to see who the recipients are. So sometimes you have to go deeper, and that's why we had I think a whole long training on how to find the recipients and so forth and so on, like the prime contract, and then they'll list all the primes for those. But you have to do a couple of drills down and drill down and so forth and so on. So it's just so uh overwhelming. So we had to just find a better way. And so I have to give a training on that. So to keep it real simple, I'm gonna close that again and I'm gonna go back to USA Spending. So it's a whole training, but this is way to find targets. Or you go to FPDS. And then this is the last one because I just always want to make sure I leave you with something. So that way you can always find. So we want the agency. Let's do 2026, 25, because that one just ended. And then we're gonna say no, you don't want the place of performance. I just want to see the agency so that way you can see what it looks like. Let's see. I'm going to do Veteran Affairs. Let's see if it'll let me pull it up. There it is, Department of Veteran Affairs. And then I hit submit. And then you see how you'll see all the primes in here. And then, but if it got too many, you have to learn how to use these different systems. And this is how I find primes. So if it was for whatever agency, that's why it's more to it than whatever agency it is, then I go look for that prime to see if I can offer their services. You can see what they're obligated, so forth and so on. But this is just one way. There's so many ways. I hope that was helpful.
Yes, thank you. And also your Apex counselor can assist you with that kind of research.
For sure.
So don't forget that. We only have one more question, back to clearance again. What kind is needed for businesses, not for people? And I've been out of a job since March. How do I check on the status of my clearance?
I can't answer that question. That's like a facilities security manager could answer that question for you. That's what you would normally contact your facility. Oh, so facility clearances is a whole different training. So I recommend you go to that training for the facilities because they can give you the deep dives. All I can tell you about the clearances is when you're looking at the opportunity, does it require one? So now I'm not an expert at the facility clearance, and I'm not going to even try to say that I am because I am not, because there are so many nuances to a security clearance. And then they have to be a security manager because you have to be authorized to use their security system, whether it's JPEG or JPES or whatever the new name is for that organization. So what you would have to do is contact the person that you were with prior to that. So if you were in the military, you'll contact your security manager. And then so you will contact that agency that you were with, or if it was the military service, ask them who is responsible as the security manager, and then they can look up and tell you the status of your security clearance. That has to be a person because you have to have um, a clearance to look at clearances, and then you have to be, it's a training and all of that, so it's a lot involved in the security clearances, and as well for the facility clearance. So the individual and facility, that's why they have to have their own individual training, and you have to be certified to teach that, and I'm not certified to teach that, so I couldn't really give you, I just know the process because I've dealt with it before. Okay.
Okay, thanks. I've also posted a link in the chat. Gavology has several clearance trainings,
Yeah.
so you could watch some of those as well. All right, that's
Okay.
all the questions.
Okay. Now let's get to an opportunity because you now mostly you've learned about. Let's go back so I can make sure I stay with the slides. Okay, you've learned about the Defense Production Act. Okay, and why it matters. Now we're talking about how the DPA helps the small business. The Defense Act. This act helps it. Okay, and so you can monitor current funded projects. And that's where we're at now, looking at the businessdefense.gov, identifying primes involved in those projects. Now, I don't know how to get the primes involved in this project. They're telling you to get it from the opportunities. And then to how sometimes you're going to have to adjust that capability statement to highlight that. And then consider joining relevant supplier portals or workforce partnerships. And that's what that website will do for you. It's going to help you to identify all those things. All right. It's going to make sure that you see where the shortages are and how to find it. So let's go back to it because I want to make sure I covered everything on the slide. Okay. Now, here, you would just click on the visit here, and then it's going to load and it's going to take you to the solicitations, right? It's going to take you to the Defense Industrial Base Consortium, right? It's going to tell you the opportunities. It's going to tell you if anything is active. Right now, it just says coming soon. They're talking about upcoming. So right now, there's no upcoming solicitations, and then passed. So you see, they have passed. They've been awarded right here. They're telling you they have been awarded, so things do come up. One said emerging manufacturing technology, it was awarded. Now, far as clicking on the information, as you see, it will not let me click on any of the information. It just lets me go in here and just see that there are some past solicitations and what it was for. So I would recommend that you get very familiar with this, the resources, the news and events. If there's memberships, I believe this is free to join. I'm not sure, but you can click on there and find out. And then the members only website. And so navigating these different resources is going to help you. So remember, you heard that OTA, that's another acronym. Make sure you write that down. That's the other transaction agreement or other transaction authority. This is a streamlined vehicle that brings innovative research findings and state-of-the-art prototypes from industry to federal government. An OTA relieves some of the contractual burdens typically placed on contractors working with federal clients. So it's a vehicle use to take away some of those documents that you have to have when you go on sam.gov, and it's like for what you're going to see, because I'm going to take you to sam.gov too, because I believe they put one on here for you as well, an example, and I really want you to see what it looks like, so when you have time you can really go deep dive and look at all of these information, and then take notes. So when you get in that counseling session, you can ask the eaches the questions about everything. So this was meant. So making it possible for non-traditional contractors like small and emerging companies to participate in the technology development. So I just love it when they create these programs for you, for us as small businesses. But the thing is, you got to learn how to use it. And then you got to make sure you are a reliable partner that they will can be able to reach out, or you're not responsive, because I can remember many a times I would reach out to small businesses, they won't even answer the phone or respond to emails, or so if you're not responding to emails, you're not answering your calls, you're not getting back to them in a timely manner, they're just going to overlook you and go to the next one. So this business is you have to be very responsible, very responsive, and just get the information to them quickly, because they're going to move on to the next small business who is ready. And this is for the technical providers in a specific. So you just keep understanding all of that, and you'll be good. And they got all these different webinars, all this information that you can attend to learn more about it. So because that's another class itself, make sure you check out the news and events, because they might be having some upcoming events and stuff that you can they have an upcoming CMMC webinar and so forth and so on. They're talking about DOD sharing feedback. So make sure you always keep abreast with the news that's coming up, because you don't want to miss out any opportunities they might have for you. All right, now let's go back to the website. Now they're going to let you know, they said open funding opportunities. So maybe there's an open funding opportunity out here. So let's click on this one. Visit here. Let's see if they have any open. So nothing is on that page. So that's why I always check every resource to see if there's something on here. Let's see if they have anything else open for us. No, they're just giving you more of the mission, vision, and innovation and different things of that nature. I want to just see if they have anything on for sam.gov, so you can see an opportunity out there and how it goes. Let me see if they have any RFIs or anything for you to look at. Let me see if this is a solicitation out here. Okay, well, they did at least let you look at a solicitation out here. This is for a request for information on supplier base. So let me make it big for you. All right, for the supplier base initiative for air breathing engines for the hypersonic systems. Now, this is with the Air Force, and this is the Air Force Research Laboratory. So, you see why it's important that you go here and learn, because you possibly could go after this if this is something that your company does. And then let's see, questions to consider for responses. They're telling you, do you currently produce systems, subsystems, components, subcomponents? So this is important for you to read, and then you answer it, because all this is it, and this is basically you're going to respond with your capability statement. So let me show you. They said do not include any classified information. So I want to show you where they're telling you how to put all this information in. And they'll tell you, okay, provide a rough order of magnitude. Okay, so you just want to have your estimate to create. And let me go, I wanted to see how much they wanted. If you had described, let me see if they put that in the instructions area. Okay, just general intent. All right, so they're giving you a little bit of information about it. The Air Force as the DOD executive agent for the DARPA Title III program provides RFI, inviting industry to provide information on technology of interest for the DARPA Title III program. Okay, so they're just giving you all that, the executive orders, and then a little bit of background information, additional general information. Okay, and then they're telling you, oh, so this one is way old. So this one is 11 August 2022. And then they gave you some POCs and phone numbers. So if you need to call them, And then they just gave you what needed. Okay, so a 20-page single-sided double space, all right, response. So that was pretty good. And then Times Roman. So it wasn't much they were asking for. They just wanted you to respond to those questions. So you see, it's you can do this. This is something that can be done. And what it is just learning where you fit in and how to package this information. So when an opportunity is ready, you can bid on that information. I was hoping they had one on here for you to look at that was on SAM. Let's see if they have one on SAM so you can see what it looks like on sam.gov. It doesn't look like that they have one. Let's look. And we already clicked on this one. Let's go back to the opportunity, see if there's another one. Let's look on the announcements. So they just awarded, oh, they're just telling you to get more information. So as you see, you have to learn to navigate because they're constantly changing the websites. They're telling you what the Department of Defense awards and to expand the workforce development. So that's the reason why I was sticking with workforce development because I wanted to see where they're awarding all this money so that way we know where to go apply for it. I just really wanted to really let you see one on sam.gov, but it doesn't look like they have any opportunities for sam.gov right now. So you won't be able to see. Let me look at this one. No, it's not in here. And I don't want to spend all our time trying to find it because I really wanted you to see one of those. Hmm. Let me click the last one down here and see if they got something. Okay, there's sam.gov. So uh, they put it under the to view open FOA amendment. Okay, so there's amendment. They said click here. So that's the sam.gov. So this is how you find it on sam.gov. Oh, let me see if there's a way I can blow it up. No, I don't see where I can blow it up. Okay, so right here is Defense Production Act Title 3, expansion of domestic production capability and capacity. FOA amendment. So let's see who the FOA. And then they said there have been new actions to this contract to view the most recent. So this is how it looks before I review it. Now, I always recommend that you sign in because that's the only way you can follow it. You have to be signed in to follow it so you can get all of this other information, right? So before I click on the click here, this is with the Department of Defense. They're telling you the Department of Air Force, and they're giving you all the information. Now they're telling you what kind of contract opportunity type this is. This is a pre-solicitation. So this is the best time to be talking to any agency is pre-solicitation because that means they're still out here trying to get information. So that's still open. It's not a solicitation yet. It's not saying, okay, now we got to stop answering questions and now you have to write it out, all that you can call still right now. And then they're telling you the place of performance there isn't. So let's look at the update. So now that we just gave you a brief, so now let's look at the updates. Now it's active. All right, they updated last published date. They updated the updated published date was July 1st, 2025. So they recently made an update. Okay. So then what you're trying to see is which NAICS code. Now, if this is not your NAICS code, all other miscellaneous manufacturing, then this opportunity is not for you. Now, is this one of your secondary NAICS codes? Is this a NAICS code that you are pursuing? But you have to develop your bid no bid so you'll know when you to go after these opportunities or when not to. But for the sake of this example, let's just continue to go on so that way I can show you how it is. So when the NAICS code change, so say if this is your NAICS code 541611, then you're like, oh, this is a good opportunity. Let me screen it some more. So we're going to use this as our template. So now we're going to view the changes. All right. They're just giving you a summary of the changes. So the FOA means the funding opportunity announcement. So that's another acronym, the funding opportunity announcement. And it's just giving you a little brief information. It was telling you the closing date of the funding opportunity of this announcement was from 12 July 20 from July 2025 to 12 July 2026. So that means it's still open. All right. So for those who are interested, it's still open. And they're giving you the due date and time, open and effective date until 12 July 2025. White papers will be considered. Okay, so white papers will be considered if received before 1500 Eastern Standard Time, that is 3 p.m., on 12 July 2025. All right, to open effective date of 12 July 2026. All right, white papers will be considered if received before 1500 Eastern Standard Time on July, and that's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They gave you the information. They said address technical questions to the technical POC. They've given you a POC, two POCs actually, and then they're telling you what the schedule is. They saying this funding of announcement will remain open for the white paper submissions and call issuing issuances for a period of 72 months. So just take your time and read that. They got other requirements on here, added information, and then they're talking about assessment of methodology. So just take your time and read this so you can understand. So now let's look at the documents, what's involved. So remember when I was telling you about all those documents? So that's why an OTA is better because it's not as many documents that you're responsible for. So you would go in and download all these documents and read it. They're giving you a sample of these documents. So you just open it up and they're telling you this is the technology investment agreement. And you see it's 66 pages. So you're going to have to take your time and read it. They're giving you a sample of all the documents because maybe they're going to ask you for some questions. Once you're reading it, you're going to learn a little bit more about this opportunity. So take your time. They're giving you a sample of statement of work template, strategic business plan outline. They're talking about the funds and man hour expenditure report template, property control list item, your marketing plan outline, and cost sharing summary example. So I recommend you go through this and read this to really understand what they're asking you. They're talking about terms, they're talking about the scope, all of these. And that is why it's important that we have this type of training for small businesses because you do not know what you do not know. So that is why we take our time, stop, give you the training so you know what to be researching and resourcing. And you see, they have a lot of information in here for you. So they're setting you up for success if you so choose to participate in this program. But make sure before you contact these peoples that you've done your due diligence, you've done your research, you've reviewed, you've talked. They're telling you what the approved, they're telling you what the forms are, they're telling you everything. Just go through and read everything. So when you get in those meetings, you are very well informed. Now, let's talk about, before we continue to dive deep into this opportunity, let's talk about, so we talked about the small business action steps is to monitor the program, identify the primes, which they did not give us that information, but maybe you had to be signed up, signed in to view that information. So so then you know that one of your questions is, I gotta find out how do we identify the primes, all right? And then what portals do I, so those are two questions you have to get answered. What portals do I need to be signed up for and so forth to find out the supplier portals or the workforce partnerships? Those are two questions. Now, the key players in this defense ecosystem, you have your government stakeholders, that's your contracting officers, your contracting officer representatives, your program manage officers, and your OSTBs, your Office of Small Business, Officers Disadvantaged Business Utilizations. All right, your large defense primes, your subcontractors, suppliers. Okay, these are all key players in the defense ecosystem. So you got to Very familiar with their small, mid-tier, and large business supporting the national defense. Then understanding DIB. Okay, so now you understand. My goal is that I hope you understand what DIB is, the defense industry base is, and how it's designed to help you as a small business. Okay, that is the goal for this. And then what I want to talk to you about too is understanding how they buy, because that was one of the questions that came up as well. How do they buy? So they still, I haven't seen any micro purchases with this the defense industry base, but they could be. So that's why it's important to sign up for the newsletter. Let's go here. The newsletter was right here. So that's the defense.gov news. And then that way you can stay abreast to what's going on. And then the last thing I've seen was July 2025. So they haven't posted anything yet. So the July 2025 was the last time. And so this is where I'm looking to see the news to find out what's going on. Any updates or any initiatives, any programs coming out, I'm looking, because they also have any legislative updates, they have any initiatives, and this is where we found out about industry events that's coming up, and if I need to attend, they have it all here. And they're telling you about announcements. And then this is where the Office of Small Business Programs have information too. So this, and then you're finding out key personnel, because a lot of people retired, we lost a lot of people in the government space. So you're trying to see who's still in those positions. So it's important to be signed up for the news, because they're telling you, right, farewell, a lot of people left, and then welcoming a lot of people that came. So this is good for you to know, so you know who the POCs are. And then that POC, reach out to that POC. Well, hey, how can I find out who the prime contractors are? Because they might have the information that we do not have at this time, as the program is still being set up. So make sure you find out who the new staff members are, and make sure you go to those attending events if you can, because you can learn a lot of information from that. And then finally, they have emails out here to contact for maybe they can give you some more information that we are not able to give you here in the training. And that could really help you. Okay, so let me go back to the slides, because I want to make sure we have just a few minutes to go over the scenarios and just talk about the simplified acquisition. So the buying methods. So understanding the core acquisition methods, and then the entry for small business, the simplified acquisition. They were going up on that. So I'm not quite sure if it still 250,000 or it did get approved and it went up. Full and open competition. There's just different buying methods. You could be a set aside. The set asides has been under the revision too, with the federal acquisition overhaul. So there's just more to come. So that's why it's important that you do your research. Then we talked about those contracting vehicles. All right, the different types, it's just so many amount, and that's a different training right there. And then why this matters for small business, because you need that early win. You need that early win often, and figure out how they buy, who they're buying for, and what vehicle are they using. But you have to also be compliant. And that's just more to come. And I'm hoping to get really a lot of where these portals are at and all that, as this training continues to come out, because it's still fairly new. So I want to make sure we're giving you the information as we get it. And then just a little quick scenario on different businesses entering. So like for this one, a professional service firm, so I'm just going to say maybe it was a small business, a woman-owned professional service business, and she wants to enter the defense industry base, but maybe she's only providing the administrative support, but she has training coordination, basic data management services. So as we learned from the use case scenario, she want to focus on the training coordination part of her business, because they're looking for training. That was spelled out. They're looking for training. All right. But the thing is, Do they have a SAM's registration already? Do they have a basic capability statement so they can market that capability? Do they have any kind of federal past performance, state past performance, local past performance, commercial? What kind of past performance does this company have? Now, if they only have some commercial past performance, oh, that looks really good. So, this is the level of detail I'm talking about when I'm telling you to go in and bullet everything. So, instead of saying they have, you'll say I have. I have my UEI registration. Check. I have a basic capability for the capability statement for this service. Check. However, I do not have past performance. So, who is going to work with me with no past performance? Well, the large business, maybe not. Mid tier business, maybe not. Maybe a small established prime will, or another subcontractor might need a key personnel on their team. There's different strategies for where you are, but you've already identified where you are, your current state. You've done a business assessment. I know where I am at right now. So when I get in my session, boom, these are my challenges. All right. No clear target agency. No do, but she didn't have a clear target agency. She just does this, right? No relationship with the primes, because most of you coming in, you don't have relationships with the prime because you're very new to this. So now you have to develop the relationship. So now what's the goal? The owner's goal is to start winning subcontract work within what? The next 12 months, or is it the next 12 to 24 months? You have to define it. You have to know what you're trying to do so you can achieve it. All right. And that is how the scenarios go, right? Where's the business fit in the DIB ecosystem? Because these are the questions you're asking yourself. Is it subcontractor, direct supplier, prime? Now, realistically, not a prime because you don't even understand the inner workings of it being a prime because you're new to the government contracting space. So these are the questions you're going to ask. This is your task. Okay, what is the most realistic entry pathway into this system? I mean, into the DIB, the defense industry base. Okay. Is it under subcontracting, under a large prime, under a small prime, under a mid tier prime, or is it a teaming opportunity? Well, I don't feel confident. I think I want to do a teaming. They do 50-50. So that means you got to find somebody doing the same thing you're doing if you want to do 50-50. Now, if it's a certification, got to be 51%. If it's a woman owned, so forth and so on, but that's in other trainings. But it's just giving you a primer to what the intricacies of the government contracting place is. It's very complicated at times, so it can be challenging. And then the next question: which DoD organization are most likely to buy these services? Is it Army? Is it Navy? Is it Air Force? Is it defense agencies like DISA, DLA, DHS? Or is it the National Guard units? You got to learn those things. And then what should the company do first to position herself? Should it be build a list of 10 primes who buy these services? Attend an industry day outreach event? It just update a capability statement to match the target agency or this requirement that we're trying to go after, the submarine training? Or is it just to conduct some market research? You have to identify what you have to do first. All right. And then identify one short term win that you can achieve within 60 days. Is it book a meeting? Okay, I booked a meeting with a subcontractor manager. All right. Was it to register in a prime contractor supply portal? Or was it attend an industry day? Just one go because you have to see yourself moving. If you don't, you get discouraged. And then the takeaways. All right. Each of these scenarios are to teach you as a small business owner how to think through the positioning, all right, entry strategies, market alignment, realistic actions, and how subcontracting works at the first step. That is important. And scenario three, I mean, two and three were the same things. I'm asking you the same questions, but I'm just spinning it off a little bit different. So, this company is a small two-person cybersecurity startup specializing in vulnerability scanning, basic network hardening, hardwaring, I apologize, and security policy development. Now they have their UEI, They're active SAMs. They have strong technical skills, but no DoD cybersecurity compliance CMMC level one, not complete. All right, no federal past performance, limited commercial clients. They only have three other startups, no relationship with primes, no clear understanding of which DoD agencies need cybersecurity services. Now, the owner wants to enter DIB as a subcontractor or specialized in service provider. And see, that's why I said you have to do the bullets first so you know. All right. Then you can ask your questions, those five questions that I said. Where does this company fit in DIB? What is their most realistic entry path? Which DoD organizations are most likely to need this capability? And what should the company do first? And then I identify one quick win they can achieve within 30 to 60 days. So, like, complete 70% of the CMC level one checklist, register in 5 prime contractor supply portals, meet with Apex counselor to align NAICS keywords, attend one of DISA's or Army Cyber Outreach session. That's what I mean when I say you got to start thinking about these things uh, as you go on. And then the last one are manufacturing and product supplier. All right. They are lightweight aluminum components, custom brackets. They do modern parts used in vehicles, aircrafts, ground systems. Now, they did their bullet point. They said they have a small machine shop, the ISO 9000 certification, strong commercial manufacturing past performance. But the thing is, they don't have no DoD manufacturing experience and no understanding of the military specifications, the MILSEP, all right, which no relationship with primes or DoD program officers, no relationship in supplier portals. So now you understanding this is how the things you have to start thinking about. The company wants to enter the DIB as a supplier or subcontractor to primes. And then you go through that same exercise again. So that way you have your key takeaway to see, okay, what should I do in the next 30, 60, 90 days? That one step. Should I create a manufacturing focused capability, register on DLA DIBs, identify 3 parts? This is how you think about it. So that's why I wanted to do that scenario. My goal was to give you that scenario to show you how different types of small business enter the defense industry. And then you see they're not all the same. And that's why, because they're going to be at different levels, different phases, different teaming part. Maybe you might have three, maybe you might not have it. So this was the challenge of squeezing all this information in this time. But I wanted to make sure you had a good understanding of what I mean when I'm saying why this matters, because this is practical. It's relatable and easy for you to apply. So you don't have to feel overwhelmed or stressed out or frustrated. Just take one step at a time. And then if you have to rewatch the videos a couple of times so you can understand, or maybe I went a little too fast because we have to stay within the allotted training time. I gave you 7 steps. All right. I gave you 7 steps to entering the DIB. All right. Register, comply, understand the mission and needs. I've walked you through it. Identifying those NAICS. All right. Those PLCs, what you bring. Build that capability statement. Develop that pipeline. Build those relationships. And I always recommend when you're brand new, pursue subcontracting first, then prime. Because if you learn it, then you can just scale up. That's all it is you're scaling up. Then understand the compliance requirements. You have to know the compliance requirements. All right. Your cybersecurity, your SAM.gov for you to become a prime. Now, some prime contractors require their subs to be registered on SAM. Your clearances, if applicable, all those different controls or different things out there. It matters. So you have to know because it's different for each. So I couldn't really go deep in that because it's different for each. For cyber is different from the manufacturing, from the technology, all of it's different. And then prepare for your counseling session. As we end, to prepare before the meeting, clarify your top 1 to 3 goals. All right. What to bring, capability statement. If you don't know how to do the capability statement, it's okay. We got that training coming up in January. I got you. Then we got your NAICS, PSC codes, and your keywords. A brief list of any past performance or related. W-2, it doesn't matter. I always tell them bring your resume because we always keep that resume updated. So bring your resume because that is to me, a good key indicator where you are because I can look at everything and glean from that. And then come ready to discuss those biggest roadblocks right now. All right. That's what you have to do when you're preparing for your session. And finally, your key takeaway. I know it was a lot. I know it was a lot, and I tried to squeeze it all in for you. But the goal is understand because the first time you're not going to get everything. If you got to rewatch it again, then you may get a little bit more. You might got to watch it again, get a little bit more. Schedule it on your calendar. Say, hey, I need to go watch this episode. Put it on. I'm only take about 30 minutes to an hour. I'm going to reread it, write it, make my notes, and move on. That's the key takeaway. All right. That's all you have to do to grow in this space. All right. And then more training to help you grow. So next year, we've already started planning out our training, the capability statement 101, marketing to the primes and agencies. Then we got the secrets to contracting with state of Maryland because this we are in the state of Maryland. So we're teaching you how to go local. All right. And then just keeping it going. The intro to federal contracting, how to find primes and agencies. The goal is to help you in your business. Okay. And then finally, questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for such a detailed presentation. Really appreciate it. So yes, if you have any questions, we've got 4 minutes left, or if you'd like Akeisha to go over anything she mentioned, then put it in the chat. And while we're waiting to see if any of that comes through, I have put some links in the chat. Akeisha's next class is going to be January 8th, and it's going to be on capability statements, so don't miss that. And then also we have our most popular event of the year, which is selling to the government in 2026. And that is when the whole Apex Accelerator team will answer your questions on a roundtable. So don't miss out on that one either. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. So I'd like to thank everybody for participating today and thank Keisha, of course, for an excellent presentation. I really don't know how she does it. Such a thorough job every month. Consistently, I never have to worry about the quality and the standard of teaching. It's just absolutely amazing. I'm always so impressed. So yes, I'm loving all the reactions. Let me add my own reaction there. There we go. Let me add another one. I could just be doing the reactions all day. Oh, yeah, there's some fancy ones going on there. So thank you all so much. I will be sending out the recording and the slides shortly. This is the last class of the year. I think you've all done an excellent job in educating yourselves over the past year. Very impressed with you. Stay safe over the winter break, and we hope to be back. Well, we don't hope, we will be back next year with some more great training and outreach for you all.
Yes.
So take care, everybody, and we'll see you in 2026. Bye
Take
bye.
care, everyone. Bye now.